What's up, everyone? Welcome back to A Line in the Stars. I'm Jordan, and we're back. And it's been a while for me since I recorded this model, but we're back today with another episode of the DeAgostini Millennium Falcon from Fanhome. And I gotta say, it has been, like I said, a couple of months since I've done any recording. The last time I built this model, I used to rely on this model for content, and now somehow I've managed to go a couple of months. I did do a bunch of recording, and I have been releasing the videos kind of slowly, but April was the last time I worked on the model. Now, two reasons behind that. One, I needed to kind of figure out what I'm going to be doing, because there are going to be a couple of mods here in this build. I didn't mod this too much. The idea was the paint was going to be the star of the show, and that is still the plan. I may have referenced in the previous episodes that I was thinking about getting the Falcon 3D parts and all of that. Not so much. I really do kind of want to focus on, doing a good paint job and making sure that there are certain things that I want to execute to be completed. We're going to be starting with some of that today. But I really kind of want to keep this model pretty simple. This has been a very enjoyable build, and once you really start going down the modding rabbit hole, you kind of can't stop. Obviously, we're at like 88% when we're done with today complete. And as of recording, I do have every single stage. So I managed to avoid any major delays here before the very end. In a 21-month build, I don't know how, but I somehow got this in 21 months. I managed to avoid any major delays with this build. I may have just caught the subscription at the exact right time. Like obviously stage 32 was a thing. I waited a long time for stage 32, just like a lot of us, but thankfully to a viewer, I didn't have to wait for the build for it. I went ahead and got it back to him. But basically, I managed to get through this in 21 months, and I'm really surprised, astounded. I know a lot of you out there have really been struggling for parts, and so don't take this as me saying, ha ha ha. This is more like, holy crap, I completed a model on time. Well, at least I didn't complete it, but I received the model on time from Fanhome, which has to be some sort of record. I don't know. I've just gotten very lucky. Being a content creator, trust me, does not help with that. They do not care. I'm not like on a subscription. Like I'm not like sponsored by them. I paid just like everybody else. And they don't care if you're a YouTube content creator, because they will delay you just as anything. I'm still waiting for parts for kit for over a year, and it's probably going to be another month before I get them. So all that being said, however, here we are. It is time. It is the beginning of summer here in the Pacific Northwest. And for those watching in the future, this is July of 2025 when this video is going to be released at some point during the month. But as of recording, we are in the first week of July. And it's the perfect time for painting and doing all the rest. And so I've only got 13 more stages before we're done. A lot of this is going to be putting all of the final, like all of the different assemblies together, the mandibles, the internal parts, mating all of the parts together. A lot to do still, and there are a ton of greeblies to put on. So, that being said, however, we are getting towards the home stretch, and in order to do so, we need to kind of get into our first real mods of this build, and that's going to be for the engine. So, 87 and 88, which we're going to be taking care of today, I believe is the beginning of pack number 19. And as I said, there are 21 packs in this build, and we are here at the beginning of pack number 19, and finally doing some mods to this build, which is kind of rare for me and kind of odd. So I've already done a bunch of preparation. I've kind of taken a look ahead, and I've gotten some of my components ready to go so that we can do this. But to be aware that there is going to be a bit of an instruction in here on how to do COB LEDs as your replacement for the engines. I think that the COB LEDs are just going to be brighter, no hot spots, anything like that. And I know that the LEDs that they send with this are often meant to fail. So let's go ahead and get on to stage 87. I'll stop talking. It's kind of a long intro. We'll get into stage 87 and take a look at something we haven't built in a long time, and that's going to be the bottom of the hull. It's going to be really cool to actually get in and get building. All right. right, so here's stage 87. Let's go ahead and take a look at the magazine. Nice, got zoomed in there properly. And talking about the interdictor cruiser, which is a really cool ship. These two things up here, well, the kind of the four boob things on the ship, those are gravity wells, which basically prevent any ships from going into hyperdrive. So you go into hyperdrive and then it just immediately pulls your ship back out. Really, really cool. It was part of an arc in Rebels that just, man, was such a cool arc. This was used against Thrawn, and just very, very awesome. I love it. Yes, Titus. Commander at one point, Admiral Titus. Ezra Bridger sure did do a number on this guy's career, and he wound up dying in that interdictor, as it is right there. Talking a little bit about mining and Clauson 36. This is what they use for gas or fuel for their ships. And then we get into our parts. Our wiring connector. We actually get our wiring kind of diagram here. And talking about fitting the landing lights, our instructions, and then taking a look at basically getting all of our little touch sensors put in place so that we're going to basically have to choose now how we're going to be doing the model, how it stands. So, all right, let's go ahead and zoom back out. Let's go ahead and get to our instructions. And let's go ahead and take a look at our parts. Now, I have already opened stage 87, and the reason I've done so is because I needed to do some measuring for the LED strips. Now, we're going to be going ahead and replacing the LED strips. In this, I want to use COB LEDs, which are and here's one of the COB LEDs that have already been measured and cut. This is a cool white. We'll talk about that as we get into next stage. But this is a cool white LED. And the COBs are very small amount of space in between each one of the basic LEDs. The COB stands for chip on board, so it's a much smaller distance between each one of the LEDs. And I'm going to teach you guys today how to solder them up and get them ready for assembly. So let's go ahead and get our parts out. We have, let me keep these rubber bands. These are nice. We have an extension piece here. We have one of our pressure plates. This is basically a switch so that if you take off one of the landing gear or one of the landing pads and put in the landing gear, it'll activate the LED. Now, as for the decision that I said I'm going to be doing, I am going to be putting this up on a wall mount for the time being, so we're not going to be putting in the landing gear, but when we do get to the assembly, I do want to have them built and ready to go so that if I do want to put it in its landed space or in its landed stance, we'll be able to go ahead and put them in place, and so everything's all ready to go. I don't have to do any assembly later on. So we have the two portions of our, basically what we're going to do is, this is the engine grill. And we're going to put the LED basically right in between here. Okay, I kind of got that backwards. But we're going to be putting the LED right across here. The one that we get here, and the reason we're going to be replacing it, it doesn't quite fill up the entire space. And I don't want to leave any gaps. I don't want to leave any hot spots in the engine. So we're just going to go ahead and put a longer strip. And like I said, we'll get into that. And what's funny is for this stage, we're really not going to be using any of this stuff. We're going to be using all of the parts from the previous stage. So let's go ahead and get into the build, shall we? And in order to do so, I need to grab something that I haven't grabbed in a little while. And that is going to be the lower hull. And I need to create some space for myself. And I may not have thought this all the way through. So let's see here. Got my magazine partially propped up here. I wonder if I can read it like sitting up in the corner like this. I certainly can. And let's go ahead and grab the lower hull. I haven't seen this in a while. This thing is gigantic. Oh my. And here we are. So it has been a little while. I'm going to go ahead and get my screws propped up so it's not sitting on its hull itself, and I will be right back. All right, so she is propped up on the screws, the M8 screws here. Okay, so I just went through and took a look at my instructions. It's always a good idea to kind of read through and make sure you have everything correct. So let's go ahead and open our LEDs. And I need to go grab some screws. And for this, we're going to be using the short brass screws. Let's grab a few of those out. Long ones. Some shorties. Perfect. And for the sake of keeping everything together, I'm going to go ahead and use the little cover here for this. Let's go ahead and put all the screws in here. Definitely is a challenge to build this model here at the very end. Let's go ahead and grab our screwdriver, get one loaded up. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start with one of the shorter LEDs. There's two long and two short. Okay. So let's go ahead and get this unbunched. Then, starting right back here, we're going to go ahead, install the LED just like so. And using one of our screws, it's screwed into place on both sides. Then we're going to take this and plug this in to J12, making sure to check the side of our polarity here. Excellent. And we're going to grab one of the longer LEDs right here. And we're going to go into the forward position up here. Then this one we're going to plug into J11. It's going to be right here. Excellent. Then we're going to do the same thing off screen because I can't show you guys, but it is very close to me. Just located on the other side of the ramps. We're going to go ahead and do the same thing with the other two LEDs, and I will be right back. All right, so that is all taken care of. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and grab the landing gear pressure switch. We're going to go ahead and uncoil it. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put this into the port rear recess. Just like so. Okay. And screw that in place with two of our small brass self-tapping screws. And of course, be careful with screwing these in. You don't want to damage the boards by screwing in too hard. You just need screw tight, basically just as soon as it starts to bite, and hold down. Make sure then to back off and don't break any of these. These are small screws, a little too small for the pH, or a little too big for the pH0, or a little too small for the pH0 and a little too big for the pH00. There we go. Excellent. And then we're going to plug this one into socket J13, which is just right here. Making sure to keep all of our wires routing nicely. Excellent. All right. And so let me go find the battery box. We'll get the batteries all hooked up real fast, and we'll go ahead and give this a bit of a test. Oh, let's see if all these work. All right. So probably after about 10 minutes of finding battery box, found it, and getting batteries in it because my battery mod didn't work, and trying to figure out how all of this worked, I finally figured it out. And yes, everything is indeed working. So if we hit the pressure switch down below here, you can see that over here and over here, both, well, you can't see it on the side closest to me. Maybe if I switch cameras over here and move over just a little bit there, you can see I hit the pressure switch, and it's kind of hard to get down there. But got these two lighting up as well. There we go. And our ramp is also still working, although it's still a little clunky. So I'm going to need to figure that out. But there we are. Man, that was a bit of a tough stage to get done. It took me over 33 minutes to kind of just like find everything, finagle everything into place. So let's go ahead and move on to the next step, which is going to be a little tutorial on how to create a couple of COB LEDs. All right, so what I have in front of me, let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit here. I have two white COB LEDs. Now, I've already went ahead and got one ready to go. I have all the ends all ready for soldering and all that jazz. And what I have here is, let's go ahead and measure. This is exactly 7 inches long. I have two lengths that are exactly 7 inches long. And in order to pull that off, I had to cut off probably about an inch or so off the end here. And in order to do so, you can see those dark little spots behind the yellow. Those are going to be the individual LEDs. Now, what you're going to need to do in order to cut down the size is you're going to cut in between those. If you cut directly on top, you'll short out the entire thing and it'll stop working. But if you cut in between, that's the natural cut points. And basically what I've done is I've created two 7-inch long sections, and they are going to fit in right here for stage 88. So basically, we need to assemble this. We need to get all our wires ready to go. And then there's going to be a bit of a gap in between on recording. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically go through and create these, and then we're going to burn them in for a day. And then I'm going to come back and I'll show you the rest of stage 88. And we'll talk about a little bit about what burning in means. But basically, let's go ahead and get this at least assembled. Wonder if we get both pieces. How interesting. Okay, just like that. So these are going to sit just like that, okay? Now, the wire is going to come through on this side. And this is going to sit directly on top. And as you can see here, there's only a tiny little space. There's like over an inch of space on either side on the stock parts. And I wanted to go ahead and get this put into place. And so what we're going to need here is a couple of things. I am going to be taking the wires and the connectors. And basically, we're not going to be using the stock LED strips at all. The COBs are going to wind up getting plugged into an Arduino, and there's going to be a bit of a, what's the best way of putting it? There's going to be a bit of a special code. We'll talk about that more in the coming episodes. But basically, I want to be able to kind of recreate a bit of an engine flicker, and we'll be able to do that with an Arduino and a MOSFET. There we go. And a MOSFET. So to go ahead and create your LEDs, what we're going to need to do, and I'm going to go ahead and zoom back in. I don't know why I zoomed out. But over the top here, you're going to see we have our positive and we have our negative, and you'll see that it's denoted there with a positive, 5-volt positive, and a negative there. What we're going to do is, if you notice, there is a bead of silicone right around the entire LED area. What we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut below, not down into, but I'm just cutting down to the surface of the board very carefully. Okay, doing that on both sides. And then I'm going to cut along the side of the cob itself. And what we're doing is we're moving this silicone off of the connection points, as you can see here. Now, what we're going to have to do is I'm going to take our knife and I'm going to scrape. There's going to be some glue. There's going to be some remaining silicone kind of hanging out. And you want to scrape all of this off because otherwise you're not going to be able to solder onto this connection. Okay? So we're going to do that to both sides. And just scraping across the top, pulling off any of the excess plastic. And then what we're also doing is we're scratching and scoring the copper surface there. You want to go in both directions. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow for the connection of the solder and the wire to our piece. Okay? So now, because I'm going to be using a MOSFET and an Arduino for this, I'm going to be using a common positive versus a common negative. And we're going to be wiring our wires as such. So what I'm going to be using here is a length couple of lengths, and we're only going to do this through one pin. Although I may do 2 pins if I want to kind of do an alternate flicker back and forth. But I have some 30 gauge wire, and let's see here. What I want to do is I kind of want to match the length of wire a little bit, because it kind of gives an idea of what we're looking at here. And we're matching up with the stock wire, just like so. And let me go ahead and cut this down. And then we're going to go ahead and match up another set. Match them in length. There we go. Go ahead and strip both of our ends. All right, both ends of our wire are stripped. A little cleanup here. Oh. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab my flux, my Omnifixo, sorry. And with a little bit of a brush here, what I'm going to do is on each one of the ends where I have exposed, okay, I'm going to just take a little bit of flux and just brush it on to the connection point. The flux definitely helps with the solder making a good connection here. Don't always use flux, but when I do, it really does help, especially here, especially on COBs. Okay. All right, so what I like to do in order to get the COBs on there, or to get the solder and the wires connected to the COBs, you kind of got to go through a little bit of a process. And so, first things first, after I got the flux put on, what I like to do is take my solder and my soldering iron, and I like to go ahead and put down a small bead of solder and get it connected to our pad. Do that on both sides. Want to make sure that it's on there before you move on to the next step. Okay. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and use my, once again, common negative, or excuse me, common positive. So I'm going to go ahead and match that up. And not the greatest at soldering, you guys, so I do apologize. And just get my blob all taken care of there. We're going to go ahead and do the same thing with the negative side. There we go. Just like that over the top. There we go. Nice solid connection. And let's go ahead and test. And we should get light. And it's blowing out. So there it is. Okay. So let me go ahead and take care of the other one, and I will be right back, and then we'll talk about how to burn in LEDs, and we'll move on to stage 88. All right, so they're both finished up. Let's go ahead and show you how we burn them in. So I'm going to go ahead and connect both of my negatives together. And what burning in basically does is, obviously LEDs are not a perfect thing. There can be manufacturer defects. Often I find that you don't really need to worry about this. But what I like to do is I like to go ahead and burn in my LEDs for at least 24 hours. And what I like to do is put them to their full power and get them, where is it, pause it up here, And I do apologize about the camera blowing out. Let's go ahead and go wide. But what I like to do is I like to go ahead and let these run for 24 hours. If they run for 24 hours, they're going to run for the length of time for this model. As crazy as it sounds. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to burn these in for the next 24 hours. And when we come back, I'm going to go ahead and finish stage 88, and we'll go ahead and get these COBs installed. So from your perspective, I'll see you in a minute. From my perspective, I'll see you tomorrow. All right, so it is the next day. It's a little weird kind of recording like this, but you know, content creators got to do what content creators got to do. Let's go ahead and get on to stage 88 and actually install the work that I've been waiting very patiently for the last 24 hours. So let's go ahead and take a look at our magazine. Let's go ahead and go and tighten a little bit here and get those wires out of the way. The Upsilon class command shuttle. This is also what Kylo Ren was using in the sequel trilogy. Very, very cool ship. I do recommend, if you guys want to read along, go ahead and pause on any one of these screens. There's Kylo and all of his whiny self. A lot of people didn't like Kylo Ren in the sequel trilogy. I actually didn't mind. I really liked the character and just felt very on brand for Darth Vader's grandson, I do have to say. Fleet tactics, the basics, they're trying to like really make it, scientific for this magazine. All right, our parts, and then assembling the engine lights and getting them put into place so we can give them a test. Now we're going to test them out with all the other lights, but we're going to do so by cooking up the main power. So let's go ahead and open our parts. Right. So get this open. All of our parts out. Let's take a look at what we got. Another couple of our pieces here. Another one of our LEDs that we're not going to wind up using. These are notorious for not working. On one of the rubber bands we'll go ahead and set aside with the others from yesterday. We have a little bit of cable management in here, which is fantastic. Some side frame pieces. We're going to go ahead and set that aside. And all of our screws. So let's go ahead and get into our parts, shall we? Or into our instructions. All right. So what we're going to do, we're going to need 12 self-tapping screws. And I believe these are going to be the long ones. Yep, the long ones, because we get all 12 of them. There we go. So, let's just get those on the desk. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab one of our COBs that we created yesterday. Okay. Then, at the lower housing here, we're going to go ahead, run the wires kind of through this way. Just like so. And what we're going to do, lay this over the top. Making sure not to pinch any wires like we have there. There we go. Oh, it may not have been the long ones. It says a short self-tapping screw. Okay, so let's see here. Go ahead and get this one's open as well. And I'm going to grab my pH 00 because it seems like it's a bit of a small little spot to go in. Then I'm going to go right here. Get that screwed down. Then I'm going to go ahead and run through, leaving these two sections here undone. We're going to go ahead and take care and put in two here, and two here. And our last screw is going in. All right, so there we go. And let's see where this needs to sit. And it's going to sit just like so. So let's go ahead and pop off the backing. And very carefully. Set this down directly over that little gap and press down. And there we go. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing with the other side, and I will be right back. All right, so the second one is done. There's both of our engine housings taken care of. That's pretty exciting. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move some of these screws off. And, oh boy, I really wish I had some clean cups here, but I just don't. So let's go ahead and get these set off over here, because I'm going to need those to assemble them in place. Let's go ahead and bring back the lower portion of the hull. This thing is so gigantic. God. Excellent. This is so cool, though. I'm going to go ahead and zoom back out. Going to grab the lower hull portion here. And I'm going to go ahead and slide this out of the way here. Excellent. Now, what we're going to do, move my coffee cup, man, everything. These big models, man, when they get towards the end of the builds, they're just like in the way. Let's just say that. Okay, so let's grab, we need those 8 screws. Okay, so we're all good to go on that front. And what I'm going to do is this looks like the outside. Or do they come from the inside? They come from the inside. How's that going to be done? Just like that? Yeah? Yeah? I think. Yep. So we're going to set that right down on top. Just like so. Then, got 4 of our long ones here. And right through and down. Get the first one kind of cinched in place. Not all the way, but just enough to kind of secure it. And I'll come back over here and work on securing the other 4 before finishing up. And get our last one put in place. Very good. Excellent. That is secured. Let's go ahead and do the same thing with the other side here. Get these lined up on their posts. And using 4 of our screws. Take care of the first one, loosely get in place. Then work on the other 4. And there we are. Very, very cool. Our engine our engine assemblies are put in place. All those are put in. Now we would normally test and plug these into J16, which is going to be down below. But as we are not going to be using for the engines the stock lighting, let's go ahead and switch over to the side cam. And let me go ahead and hook up our power. And we will see how this turned out. There we go. So let's grab both of our negatives. And there's not going to be too much running off the Arduino, but just enough. There we go. And then grab our positives. And as the camera goes crazy, there it is. Our engines are fully installed. We're ready to go. And I do have to say that did turn out pretty damn cool. So a lot of our electronics are put into place. We're basically most of the way done with getting all that taken care of. We just have to get the mandibles put in place, which we're going to be doing here in the coming episode, and then start working at the interiors done, and we're almost ready to mate the 2 parts together. But before we do that, we're going to have to get all of our final Arduino and all the rest of our wiring, including a speaker, put in place and figuring out where all that's going to go. So that's what I got for you guys today, and I just want to say thank you. I know that there was a million things y'all could have done today. Instead, you spent a couple minutes with me watching me modify this model, and I think that's pretty damn cool. If you guys have any questions or comments, tips, tricks, please leave them down below. Like to support the channel, please like and subscribe. And my friends, until we see each other again, I hope you all have a wonderful day in this beautiful world wherever you happen to be. And just remember that the Force will be with you always.